first want to affirm that making videos like these, it's never gonna be perfect, and I'm learning to be fine with that. And talking about experiences I've had and talking about things that mean a lot to me. I'm not always gonna feel like I'm doing it justice or that I'm saying things perfectly, and I'm really learning to feel fine with that. But this video is about the exotic girl's life. I want to also say this is something I've struggled with for years of my life, and when I say it's one of the most painful things that I've ever experienced and that I still experience even these days, even at my current age. And I feel like I'm confronting like some of my deepest, darkest things. It's like if I'm using like an example, it's like I'm like walking into the darkness, and I'm like just standing in the darkness, and I'm really learning to look at that darkness and bring it into the light. And you know, it feels like something that's repressed, right? And now I'm expressing it. But anyways, let's start in childhood, right? Just like some of my past videos, being a child, right? Your early life experiences, some of the first experiences you've ever had coming into this world, and how that starts to shape your programming, and it starts to shape your relationship with the world and with your own life. And being the exotic girl, I've had racial experiences like kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Like I have memories of, you know, I I was a kid in the late 2000s, right? And that was still such a racist time. And I just remember like kids, especially like older kids, like if older kids were like passing by like through our classroom section of the school, like they were in 8th grade or like whatever upper grade, and they'd look at me and like stretch their eyes and like laugh and point at me and say like, oh, you're Jackie Chan's sister, like just saying comments, and you know, like the pointing and like the ha ha ha, like laughing at me. And that felt just being a kid, like it felt so crazy and bizarre to receive that treatment. And even in second grade, like I just remember like my own classmates, right, same age as me, and they would just genuinely ask me like, where are you from? And they'd be like, are you like Chinese, like Japanese? And poor little me, i I was in second grade, and I didn't even know where I came from at that point, like my own background. And I just told them like, no, no, like, and one time I even told them like, I'm American, like you're American, and I said that so easily, like, that like it was like a no-brainer to me. I was like, what? Like, I'm American. And I remember those questions, and then I also remember even my classmates just being like your eyes are really small, like, you know. And a classmate even once said like your eyes are so small, like can you like just see properly like with your eyes like that? And yeah. And I remember one day, I don't know, like I heard some sort of comments like that, like, oh, your eyes are small, like, why are your eyes so small? And one day I came home and ran into the bathroom, tears pouring down my face, looked into the mirror, and I was like angry tears, like, why are your eyes so small? Like, why are your eyes so small? Like, I don't like that your eyes are so small. And that was one of the first times that I felt like an alien, like I was the crazy one. I felt like I didn't belong. I that I felt like I didn't want to look the way that I did, that I didn't want to be the person that I was in that moment. And I truly wish that in that moment. And, you know, so that was, yeah, that was like a second grade experience. But, you know, I kept growing up, and just even going through like puberty, like I don't know, like there was this one girl I used to know, and I felt like she was so weird about it, and she just gave me a hard time about it. And like sixth grade, going through puberty, and like she like asked me where like I was from, and I was like, I'm Asian. And she was just like, but like you don't look Asian. And you know obviously going through puberty, like in elementary school, my eyes were smaller, and I had like really thin, like long, straighter hair. Puberty came, and then my face started changing, my eyes started getting bigger, and my hair became like more thick and curly. And yeah, and I think just going through puberty in sixth grade, and then meeting her that year, and she's like, but you don't look Asian. And that felt so confusing and invalidating for me to hear, because Asian, and yeah. High school was a pretty like chill time, not gonna lie. Like I feel like everybody was just so preoccupied with themselves, and um a lot more Asian kids went to my high school, so I think like the vibes were just more chill. But like I look back at elementary and middle school, and that was such a crazier time of my life for my experiences, like racially, as an Asian woman, Asian person, because in elementary up until the end of middle school, 8th grade, I was literally the only Asian kid in my grade section. I knew like one other classmate. She was half Asian. So like I was like the only like Asian kid. And yeah, you know, like being like a really young kid in elementary, and kids um making comments about my eyes. Even in like, oh my god, like 4th grade, like I used to play tag with my friends, which like I was fine with this, but like in hindsight, I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of wild. But in 4th grade, I had really long, like thin hair, and we would play tag, but we called it the grudge. And like, I would like push my hair in front of my head and chase like after all my friends. And yeah, I feel like that's what really that was kind of like what was happening, and that was like the vibe at the time. Like, oh yeah, Caitlin, and she's Asian, and like let's call her the grudge and play tag. And like in the moment, like we were just kids and we were just having fun. And I think, you know, like kids don't really think much of things in the moment, right? um yeah, even I look back at, you know, well, that's true, but it still hurts. It still really hurt, and it was still confusing to go through that. But you know, and then we were in middle school, right? Like 7th and 8th grade, especially, and like I really became like the Asian girl, right? Like I was the only Asian girl like in my entire grade, and yeah, and I felt like such a stereotype at the time, even because I don't know, like, right? Like growing up, like there's always been this stereotype that like Asians are smart and like they get good grades, and like, you know, like things come so easy to them. And like I just so happened to, like in 7th and 8th grade, to be getting some of the highest grades in my entire grade section. And obviously that is a product of me growing up Asian and first generation Asian American. And obviously I grew up with my specific Asian parents, but there are a lot of Asian parents out there that care about um, their kids' education and take it seriously. And I don't know, like that was something I started to think about in middle school, is like, wow, like on paper I feel like a stereotype, even though in reality it's like I'm a product of like a very real like racial, cultural, like diaspora kind of thing that can go on, and you know, stuff like that. And I even had this like one classmate, and she called me like Asian fingers. And like whenever she had a question, like if she was struggling with math, or like we would go on Chromebooks in class sometimes, and like if she was having like tech issues, she'd be like, Asian fingers, like come over here, come help me. And and she told me one time, like, yeah, girl, like I call you Asian fingers because like anytime I got a problem, like you come over and like you got me. And which like did feel like a compliment at the time, but still it's like I think about that and I just think about like it just I feel like it just reaffirms this stereotype, and at the end of the day it just reaffirms me being exotic and feeling exotic, and just even um, people making comments about like my physical looks as a kid in elementary and how that made me feel. And yeah, like growing up Asian, I've just started to really identify with that idea and like programming of being someone that's like exotic. And yeah, even growing up Muslim was like kind of crazy for me sometimes, because going to the mosque in like America and like in my hometown, like I just felt not represented. And you know, like the mosque was full of like, you know, like the women's side of people from like all these other Muslim countries, but I always just felt like it was like me and like my mom. And right from like our country. And I just feel like that has felt so isolating at times, because I can really say this, like I can really say this from personal experience, but not gonna lie, like Muslim people can be cliquey, unfortunately, and that's something I've realized. Like, wow, like I really feel like we live in a world where people just have that tribe mentality. Like you just want to stick with people that are from your background, and like it's just that's it, right? That's all you associate. And I see that, you know, like I have seen that in the mosque at times. Not always, not always. I've definitely met people that are not clicky, like other Muslim women people at that mosque during the time growing up, like not clicky at all, so friendly, speak to everybody. Um, but I think just deep down for me, you know, like I would feel like that, like going to school, I'm Asian American and I feel like I get treated a certain way, and then going to the mosque because I'm Malaysian American and I'm with all these like other Muslim women and girls, you know, because I also used to do classes at the mosque as well. And deep down I did feel different, right? Just like, oh, like I'm the only one that looks this way, and I'm like the only one from like this country, and like deep down, that's what I felt. Yeah, even like my parents have made food for iftar during Ramadan sometimes, and deep down I have felt really upset and angry and sad because like um my parents have cooked, right? They've donated food for iftar multiple times now, but there have been like times like I don't know, like one or two separate times I can remember where like my mom made something like from our country, and at the end of like iftar, like I remember I was in like seventh or eighth grade, and I was like helping cleaning up. I was like cleaning up the floor, and there was so much leftovers um, that I had to throw away, that we threw away, and like I was just so upset about that because um, it's called curry pup, so it's literally like this deep fried dough, and then we put like curry inside and like potatoes, and sometimes you can put like beef or like chicken inside. And yeah, it's literally like almost like a puff pastry with like just curry inside. And it felt hurtful to me, like that moment that I threw it away, because like this is a food that I grew up eating as a kid, and it's a food that my mom always made for me at home, and like it has been one of my favorite foods. um, at at a time at some times in my life, and obviously like it just hurts so much. Like obviously this is food from like my culture, like my background, and and it hurts to see other people like not eat it, and it feels like a rejection, right? And um yeah, like that was something that really stuck out to me. Even like 17, 18 years old, I that was just a time in my life where I got so sick and tired of like my hometown, right? Like my local area. And I just wanted to like be in a completely different place, because I don't know, like my like where I grew up, I didn't always feel like I saw enough Asian people, or that I was surrounded by enough like Asian people and stuff like that. And when I was 18, I came to California, Southern California, Orange County, there's a very substantial Asian population out here, and oh God, 18-year-old Caitlin, you you precious thing, because I really thought that if I just came to like a new place, right? Like if I just got out there, that like oh I'll be like surrounded by like Asians, and I don't know, like just like I even just came out here thinking like maybe like I'll run into Malaysian people, or I don't know, just run into, yeah, things like that. And being born and raised on the East Coast, I can really say like I feel like East Coast versus West Coast, like people keep to themselves a lot more on the East Coast. And I feel like kind of like the same, like, right, like asking like me or like an Asian person like where are you from, that um that's such a canon question, right? Like for anyone that's Asian, from the Asian diaspora, like that's such a big question, that can bring up a lot of feelings. And I know that, and I get that there's a lot of sentiment behind that, but I don't know. I just feel like basically when I came out to the West Coast, I noticed that people more often are very expressive of like, oh, where are you from? Like people, it can feel like people are more like outspoken out here. And just even like, oh, I'm from here. And like there's a lot of blunt empowerment that goes on. And that was something that I thought was different and cool because I was a transplant. Like I would meet people and they're like, oh, I'm Mexican, or oh, I'm Filipino, or whatever. And coming out here, living on my own for the first time, yeah, I would even just start working at like a boba shop. And obviously, like a lot of like Asian people would come by and stuff. And I don't know, like I was so excited to just see like Asian people more often compared to where I grew up, and like it just really wasn't like that in my area. And I would talk to people, like I would make small talk with people, and I asked them where they were from, and I would tell them like, oh, I'm Malaysian. And come to find out, after multiple experiences, I realized that people would react in ways that just made me feel really hurt and confused and rejected inside, right? Right? Like, if I can kind of play it out, it's like, oh, where are you from, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm Malaysian. And then they're like, oh, or they'll, or, right, like that's one reaction. Or they'll be like I remember, yeah, I can talk about a few different incidents. I don't know, I did this like program thing one time. I don't know, it was like, I don't know, it was like a free therapy class or something like that. But we went around in a circle. Yeah, the lady that organized it, like she had us go around in a circle and was like, oh, like say your name and say like what country you're from. And there were like three other girls that had their turn. And when it came to my turn, um I was like, oh, hi, like I'm Caitlin and I'm from Malaysia. And I kid you not, like the lady organizer, her face was just like, like it felt like a completely different reaction compared to the other girls' reaction. That the reaction that she had to the other girls, right? Because the other girls would be like, I'm from this country or that country, and she'd be like, oh yeah, yeah, girl, or like whatever. And then with me, it's just like, oh, yeah, right. And it just made me feel really bad, and I was like it made me think like I feel like she knows, like I feel like I know that she doesn't know about my country, or that she's not really familiar with it. And yeah, and it always just feels so confusing and disorienting, right? Like my relationship with my ethnicity, like my nationality specifically, like I've always just had like, I can have a very confusing and heavy relationship with it over the years. Obviously, when I'm with my family, or when I'm with um, people from my Malaysian community, I'm just vibing, really. Like, I'm just living my life. And I feel so grateful to obviously have these people that are from my culture, my background, because obviously when you're with people who are your exact background, like you can just truly, truly be yourself, right? You get to share these wonderful foods, you get to celebrate the holidays together, right? Um, and so that is a positive thing that I bring up. Is like I do feel grateful that, like, okay, like I am a first generation American, but like I was still raised a part of this like Malaysian American community that like I always got to have. Um, so grateful. And just even having my parents, right? And knowing their own stories of like how and why they immigrated to the US, and just even, and like having parents that love food, and they love, both of my parents love to cook, and I feel so grateful for that. Shout out to both of them. um, I love that, and I love that they cook all these wonderful, like, you know, foods and desserts from our country. And I always grew up eating all these like typical foods. You know, because growing up for me, even though, yes, at school, kids would say things racially, or kids would say things and it made me feel bad, at least in my house, my parents were cooking these foods. And even hearing my parents speak our language, right, Bahasa Melayu, and even just hearing that, like, growing up first generation American, I don't know my mother tongue, but I can understand some of it sometimes. But people are a product of their environments and their upbringing, right? And I, if anything, I feel grateful to have those memories from my childhood. And yeah, like that's a positive aspect of it, but going into like the deeper stuff, like the deeper, heavier things, it's like, if I'm being honest, like I have felt resentful at times growing up that I never got to learn my mother tongue, that like I felt like I grew up uncultured, and that was something I really realized when I was like 18, right? It's like, okay, I'm 18, I live on my own. I'm in California, I'm in a place with like more Asian people, and I just started becoming more curious about my nationality. But yeah, I've really learned only in recent years. Like I was like 17, 18 when I found out like the reason that I feel like I'm uncultured, right? Like, okay, it's one thing if I don't speak Bahasa Melayu. It's another thing if maybe I can't really cook some of the dishes, right? But it's another thing to realize, oh, the people from my nationality, they really identify with Islam and being Muslim. And I'm gonna be honest, it felt upsetting and confusing and heavy to realize that. And in other videos, I've talked about nurturing, right? And this like practice of nurturing. And yeah, I've definitely at times, like, I look back at my childhood and my upbringing, and I'm like, my parents were always bringing me to the mosque. They were always having me, you know, do Ramadan, and they, were reminding me to pray and whatnot. But like, the culture felt really absent from my upbringing. And that was like a deep void that I felt when I was 18. Right? Like when I was 18, I was starting to do a lot of like identity questioning and kind of like soul searching. And I was like, why don't I ever meet Malaysians? Like, because at first I was like, maybe I just don't see Malaysians in my hometown area. But then I literally moved cross country to a new place where a lot of more Asian people were, only to have my heart broken in SoCal, realizing that objectively Malaysians don't really immigrate to the US, right? It's literally in like the tens of thousands, right? compared to other nationalities, and it felt incredibly isolating to realize that, and I felt really devastated. Because at the time, working at a boba shop and living in SoCal and seeing all these people and like, oh, like, wow, like all these like Asian people that live in this area. And, I see, of course, like all these people and they come from this nationality or that nationality. And I would just think, like, I wish I could run into someone that is the same nationality as me. Because I feel like deep down, I just want to talk to someone about my background. Like, I want to meet someone from my background. Thinking that it would be different, thinking that, oh, maybe it's just my family. Maybe it was just my family that grew up really Muslim. But turns out, you know, I've done my own Googling around and my own little rabbit holes on the internet, and basically I just feel incredibly sad to learn the things that I learn. And in recent years, I've really struggled with my mental health because I have experienced suicidal ideation. Because of my experience of when people ask me, like, where are you from? And I've told people I'm from Malaysia, and they tell me, like, I would have never have guessed, or I don't know what that is. Or they just literally stay quiet and say like nothing at all. And it makes me feel incredibly small, right? I feel like I'm invisible. I feel like I'm nothing. I feel like I want to disappear, and that's part of what it's like being the exotic girl. And just even like, and I've thought about this in my head, I feel like my stomach drop, or like I feel this like heavy feeling in my chest when, like, I meet someone for the first time, and like they ask me all those like typical getting to know questions, and then they ask me where I'm from. And there multiple people are they make a guessing game out of it, like, are you this, are you that? And that's another thing, that's another aspect of being exotic, right? Because it's like, I can say this, I have the right to say this because it's my face, it's my life, it's my experiences I've gone through. But yeah, I have a very ethnically ambiguous looking face, and people that I've met have said, like, you look like you can be Mexican, you look like you can be Native American, you like you can be Filipino, like whatever, whatever, like, and yeah, and just that question of like where are you from, and people just start like saying all these like countries and stuff, and it makes me feel like an alien, right? It's like this face I have, and it's like, what even is that? Like, where is she from? And that's really painful in a perpetual. There's like a perpetual pain to that because it's like it's because it's like now, like with all these like experiences that I'm talking about and sharing with you guys, it's like now there's like this like perpetual thing where I just keep identifying with feeling small, feeling weird, feeling different, feeling like I don't belong, feeling like I'm just something that people have never heard of. And just even in the recent few years, like I dated like my first boyfriend, and deep down, even though I was in a relationship and we both loved each other, like I still felt so lonely and like invisible. There's like a very specific feeling I'm trying to paint, but it's like it's like this feeling or that experience of like when you have a very intersectional or like very intricate identity, and you meet someone and that person matters a lot to you and you love each other, but it's like deep down you still feel like they don't completely understand what your experience of your life is like and how much that means to you. And it's like you can physically be in the same room as them, but like deep down, like emotionally and like from a sentimental and like existential POV, it's like we're physically next to each other, but I don't think that like we're really here together. And like you're really holding me in this very specific place that I'm in, and like I'm just speaking on my behalf right now, and I'm just sharing how much this all means to me. But I used to think that like I don't think I ever even said that to him, but I have thought that. I have thought that like would you want to be with me? Right? There's a song by Mitski, right? Your Best American Girl, and like I'm a Malaysian first generation American woman, and I feel like the person I am, the woman I am, like I don't fit this typical box of what maybe a typical woman should be. And just dating that guy, it's like I would tell myself that, like deep down, like why would he want to be with me? Why can't he why can't he just date someone else that, you know, they come from a background that is more represented? I I feel so alone in the world, and I feel like I don't matter, and I feel like I am nothing, and it has made me have thoughts that I want to hurt myself, and that the world the world will move on. The world's gonna move on. Even on the topic of like intersectional identity, it's like in work, in like workspaces or even social spaces, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm an Asian woman or I am a Southeast Asian woman, but it's like I can say that like around Asian people, or like even if I meet other people and they grew up Muslim and I'm like, oh yeah, I grew up Muslim, but it's like those are only it's only an aspect of who I am. It's not the full picture. The full picture is, hi, my name is Caitlin, and I'm a first generation Malaysian American. And yes, I grew up Muslim, but I'm actually a spiritual person, and that's what I make my life about now. But it hurts, and it has hurt tremendously to know and to feel that I'm not fitting into other people's boxes. of what I don't fit into your box of what an Asian person is supposed to be like. I don't even feel like I fit into the box of what a Malaysian person is supposed to be like, because you don't even find Malaysian people in America, right? They're not represented in America. The Malaysian people I do find, you're probably Muslim, you're probably more traditional minded, probably more conservative minded. And that's not who I am. I don't see myself in that. It's like, all these experiences I've been through, and it just makes me want to find a place where I'm loved and accepted, right? It makes me want to create a place that is for me, like a place that's meant for me, a place where I feel like I'm represented, because in all these other places I didn't feel like I was. Those places made me feel like I was not enough. It made me feel like I was nothing. But also, those places are not enough for me. But also, those places I've been in the past are not enough for me. And when I say this part now, I'm just being realistic. This is my life. And this is how I've been experiencing it so far. Being the exotic girl where I go through all these experiences, and it makes me just feel like that becomes my normal. It's my normal for people to make a guessing game out of where I'm from. When I tell them where I'm from, it's met with confusion or judgment, ignorance. And I feel like that's all it is, right? Just things that make me feel alone, things that it just feels painful. And it's crazy because it makes me think about what could be happening, and it makes me think about what could be happening and what could have happened and what my heart has needed and wanted. Because my heart has wanted people to just be like, wow, that's where you're from, that's really cool. What's that like? Like, do you have a favorite food from there? feel like most of the people I meet, they don't care. Because I feel like most people are too comfortable with what they already know. And when they meet something new, they meet someone new, they don't know how to navigate that. But I will say, overall, growing up like this in my life so far, as the exotic girl, whether it was for being made fun of for my eyes back then, getting called racial jokes, people asking me where I'm from, and the kinds of face reactions they make, right? Or even the isolation I feel, and how underrepresented I feel with my background. There are some things I've learned, and this is what really matters to me. Things that I tell myself now, right? Like, number one, I promised myself that I only want to date someone, and and when I get married one day, I want to be with someone that really wants to get to know me for the person I actually am, for my true identity, especially my background, right? My background, my culture, my nationality, and what that means to me. Because if they don't, like, I just tell myself, like, I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be alone than to be with someone that just can't make my heart feel loved and seen, and it just makes me think, like, it's actually not that's not enough for me. It's like, really, like, if you don't want to know about these things, then I don't care. Like, you're not a true lover, like, whoever you are to me in my personal life. I just don't think you meet that standard of, like, what a true friend or partner is like. Because if you were really true and wholehearted, you would want to know. And you would care. You would ask. You would want to know my craziest secrets and the weirdest things about me. Even when it's embarrassing, and even when it's incredibly devastating and heavy. Because it's like, because you love me. Isn't that what love is? person truly loves someone. It's like, how could I not know? How could you not know? True love, I think it means to be truly seen and truly understood. And having been my kind of identity my whole life until now, it makes me feel more compassion for other people and just feel more open-minded about all the different kinds of cultures and nationalities and backgrounds out in the world. Even the kind of country that I'm from, it is a multicultural country, right? And my country, Malaysia, has a very interesting and unique history. And I feel grateful about how that has affected my development, but also like the things that I've gotten to learn. Like being Malaysian means that like, you know, a lot of Malaysian people are raised Muslim and they practice Islam. And I went to the mosque for so many years of my life, and I was around people from all these different Muslim countries, and I've eaten food from all these different countries, all the different kinds of people that I see, right, in terms of physical looks as well. And I got to be a part of that. Not all people get to be a part of that. Some people are from a background where you're just surrounded by, like, you're from a background, or maybe you grew up in a way that you were quite literally only surrounded people that looked just like you, right? If you're from, yeah, people that look like you in terms of race or like nationality, right? It's monolithic, and I don't, I, you know, I don't feel like I really grew up that way. It's like, yeah, even, yeah, I was like the only Asian girl growing up in elementary and middle school, but in a positive side, I was the only one, but I got to be surrounded by these kids from all these other countries, a lot of island countries, like from my hometown. Right? Even my hometown is such a, it's a very diverse place, honestly. Like, and you know, yeah, I got to be a part of that as well. And so it's like I have felt like the weird one, and I felt like the outsider, but it's taught me to appreciate people from different backgrounds, different kinds of walks of life, because I can really say that. I can really say that. Like, I grew up Muslim. I know about, you know, um, I know about some things about Islam. Right? I grew up Asian. I can relate to that. I grew up Southeast Asian. I can relate to that. I know about that kind of walk of life. Um, Even just being Malaysian, like, we have Malaysian food, and then we also have like Chinese food as well as like Indian food, and like, I just think that's so cool. Like, even like my passion for food, and I feel like I've tried food from so many different countries, you know, and I think that's beautiful. Like, that I'm a person in the way that I've grown up over the years. Like, I feel like I've been exposed to so many different kinds of spaces, and I can just embrace it. And I love that, because again, even though I'm like this, I know for a fact we live in a world where there's people who, they live in that bubble, and maybe their bubble just hasn't popped yet, right? You're only used to this convention. You know, maybe you only want to eat food that you're used to eating. You don't want to try new foods from other people and places and cultures. And, you know, there's like a sense of ignorance there. And it's like, we live in such a huge world, actually. We really do. And I think a lot of people forget that. And that's such a shame. That's such a shame. I think there's so many beautiful people out in this world. Even even a lot of like this pain and sadness and heaviness I've experienced, it's like, yeah, yes, yes, this has happened, and I've struggled with it, and I have wished my life away so many times, so many times, but it's like, knowing that I feel this way, and knowing why I feel this way, and knowing how much it matters to me, like, being this exotic girl and all this identity stuff I've had to navigate. It's like, but like, I don't want other people to feel that way. Like, when I find myself in a good space, emotionally and mentally, and I find myself in like a better, sustainable place. I'm like, because I know how fucking awful it is to feel alone. Right, and there's a song by Michael Jackson, like, You Are Not Alone, and that's such a beautiful, like, nurturing song to listen to. It's like, I know what it's like to feel so alone, and if I know what it's like to feel that way, and I want to stop feeling that way, how, like, I don't want to perpetuate that feeling or that kind of alone kind of experience onto other people, right? I want this pain to stop for me, and so I would want it to stop for you as well. And so, deep at my core, it makes me a humanitarian. And I'd rather just see people as human beings.